Hello again, under the old oak tree, to ask you this question. What could be the most effective solution to ending the abuse, harm and damage that thousands of religious cults are inflicting on their followers today? As well as this question, this is my conclusion and chapter 25, the final chapter of the book Cult Escape that I wrote as part of my story, which is part of the resource for the Cult Escape campaign, creating awareness about religious cults. My conclusion is to answer this question: what could be the most effective solution to ending this cultic abuse? As outrageous as it may sound, I believe the most effective solution is something that we can all activate right now if we choose to. I should put my neck on the line further by saying that the reason it took 28 years to start to write this book was that I had been waiting for this solution, and I couldn't write the book, I couldn't finish it. Read on, or listen on if you're watching this on YouTube. Actually, solution is not the best word to use. Nowadays we are used to instant solutions, quick fixes, the logical answers that make perfect sense. What I'm going to try and describe is not necessarily short-term or long-term. It is something almost timeless and might be better grasped with intuition rather than logical analysis. The scientists out there may not like this. I'll attempt to illustrate it. Here goes. Law enforcement or unconditional love. Law enforcement, such as rules and regulations, do not work inasmuch as they do not generally produce inner change. Religious laws forces people to conform through fear instead of allowing effective transformation. It is the method that cultic religions employ to control their members or followers. The leader or system decides the laws that must be obeyed. They update their laws at will. The laws are enforced with the spoken or unspoken threat of punishment should a law be broken. This does not stop their laws being broken, but it is the only way they know to try to control their members. In essence, this control always has its root in fear. The power of control over their subjects is determined by their level of coercive control, brainwashing, and the severity of the punishment that follows any disobedience. And if this is the first time you've seen this video on this Cult Escape campaign, I was born into the Exclusive Brethren cult, and it was what I would call a 90% controlling cult. Cults control people on a continuum of, let's say, 1% up to 100, which could be the suicide cults. And the one that I was born into was a heavy control. And when I got to the age of 22, long story short, well, here's the story. It's on YouTube, by the way. You don't need to buy this book. You can access it on YouTube. The playlist will be in the description below. Or you can get it free of charge on Amazon Unlimited by an ebook. I made it that way because I'm not here to make money from this. I'm here just to create awareness and get this message out, and to expose what's going on in this world. You think slave trafficking is bad? It's illegal. What goes on in religious cults is just as bad, if not worse, and yet it's legal at the moment. And so at 22 I escaped, and I, in doing so, lost my family. My grandparents I'd already lost at the age of 4 when they left the cult, and we were forbidden to have anything to do with them. And when I got to the age of 50 a few years ago, I was going to say a joke then, but I won't. Something about, no. When I got to 50, I decided that if I didn't tell my story of the freedom that I am experiencing after escaping that cult, I would just feel a bit mean. I'd feel that, because I know there's people who are tormented right now, and you could be one of them. You're in a religious group, and you know they control, and you know that they have rules and laws that you either can't keep or you don't want to keep, and you know that they are rules of which have separated and destroyed many families, and you feel trapped. I know the feeling of feeling trapped, and it was that feeling that maybe compelled me to write my story and the campaign on the website, web address underneath, and this YouTube channel narrating this book, which you don't have to buy. People have said over the last year, you're just here to sell your book. I'm not. So it's free to you. Right. let's carry on. I got off into a little bit of a ramble there. Where was I up to? Sorry about this. Right. For example, you might be a woman. Sorry, I was saying the power of control over their subjects is determined by their level of coercive control, brainwashing, and the severity of the punishment that follows any disobedience. For example, you might be a woman who wears jeans and who has cut your hair. Or you may be a man who has a moustache and a car radio. Imagine if getting caught having these things could result in you never seeing your husband, wife, or children ever again. How ridiculous you might be thinking. I'm not living in fear of being punished for having those things, you might say. No, that is because you are not under the control of the cults that have such laws as I have. And there's almost 1,000 cults in the UK alone. If you were under these laws, and there are many people today who have been punished this way, you would be under this type of law enforcement. The enforcement, I'm saying, does not change you inside at all. It makes people just conform through fear on the outside. For those committed and immersed in the cult, they don't feel law is being enforced. They willingly submit to the truth of their leader. Following his truth is attractive to them because they want to please their leader, and it makes them feel like they are on the right path. However, step over that line and the leader and the whole group will ostracize them in a moment. Without realizing it, the followers are under cultic law enforcement. So, to use the same principle of law enforcement against such cults would be playing them at their own game. You could fight them, threaten them, and punish them in whatever way you could. It would be eye for eye, tooth for tooth retaliation. That's reasonable, some would say, but it would just be the law enforcement that doesn't work and therefore ultimately fails. It's not the solution, I believe. There's a more excellent way, and it's called unconditional love. What would happen? Seriously now, please think about this if you want to. What would happen if everyone loved each other unconditionally? Will there be wars, fighting, strife, violence, separation, division, hatred, jealousy, unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, greed, theft, fear, rape, slavery, abuse, racism, prejudice, cultic control, and anything else you can think of which people get hurt by? Well, no, but not everyone does love each other unconditionally at this moment. So what's the relevance, John? I remember as a child hearing an old quote from J.N. Darby's father. J.N. Darby was one of the first prominent leaders of the Brethren movement back in the early 1830s. His father told him, "Make it better by one." It's about the only thing I remember. Therefore, my conclusion is simply this. This is a letter to the people that I grew up with. My dear brothers and sisters, members of the exclusive brethren from my past, some now called members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church today, and including every man who has been called the man of God, who were the leaders. I love you all unconditionally. I totally forgive you for influencing my family to follow your laws. That resulted in my precious family being split up from my 4 grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, then later influencing my loving parents and all the friends that I grew up with there, whereby they have shunned me for the last 33 years to date. I have no demands on you. I accept you as you are, and my hope is that you receive my love and that you are blessed in growing in the knowledge of the eternal, never-failing, unconditional, uniting love of God. I bless you all. Love, John. It's my letter to you in here. That's what I'm doing. That's what I, from my heart, have done. Was there another purpose of going through this experience of cultic control and family separation? Maybe so, introduced with this next question. If believing and knowing you are perfectly loved is what brings about the end toward division and hatred and the beginnings of peace, unity and goodwill to all, how can a person get to that place of knowing this for themselves? As an illustration, how can you really know what an orange tastes like unless you are given one to taste? How can you get to know what a person really looks like unless you get to see them? How can you really recognize a piece of music unless you have heard it? How can you really feel unconditionally loved unless you have experienced it personally? Surely to know that you are loved, you have to experience it personally. It's no use just reading about it or studying it. Love is not a concept or a theory. It is a living experience that you have to be open to receive for it to be effective for you. There is lots of love in this world. Unfortunately though, most of it is conditional love. You will be loved and accepted if you keep me happy, obey my rules, eat your sprouts, do your homework, earn enough money, wash regularly, don't do anything to upset me, and a million other conditions. Is that really love? I don't think so. Has the love you have received healed you? Has it dissolved the fear and trauma of the past and enabled you to live and love each day with peace in your heart? The love that healed me from the wounds of a shattered family was unconditional love. What is unconditional love? Here are eight ways that go towards defining what it is like to be unconditionally loved. I'll tell you in a minute. I'm just in this field, 2 fields on either side of me, and in the middle there's a line of oak trees, and I'm under this beautiful oak tree. The sun has just gone down over there, a few flies buzzing about, and I'm about to tell you 8 features of unconditional love. You are totally accepted just as you are, with no demands or qualifications. You are loved forever without any conditions whatsoever. You are loved forever no matter what condition you are in. You are cared for without any thought for what the carer might get for themselves. You are loved with an everlasting love. You are always freely loved, even if you were ever unlovable. You are forgiven freely with no demands or requirements to pay back anything. You are loved so much that someone would die for you, even if you were their enemy. Where can this unconditional love be found? I mean, how did that sound to you? Consider the following questions. What place accepts you unconditionally just as you are? What is there in this world that has no demands on you? What institution accepts you without the need for any qualifications? What religion puts 0 requirements on you? What organisation has no expectations on you whatsoever? Who has actually died for you personally, even while you were rejecting them, proving that their love to you is unconditional? Where can you find, yes, literally died for you? What's the question? Where can you find total acceptance and forgiveness with no payment necessary? The next heading, who says they love you with eternal unconditional love? In my 53 years on earth, I wrote this when I was 53. As I write this, I have only ever found one reference that totally fulfills this standard of unconditional love. I don't know about you, but without knowing I am loved freely this way, I cannot go on. I cannot meet the demands of any of religions, laws, rules, regulations, expectations, burdens, divisions, denominations, separations, and you know what? I am not going to continue trying. I've finished. I've ceased. I've ceased from my labours. I have given up on man's religion of law. I've been there, done that. If I can't be accepted from being me, then sorry, I've failed. However, I'm not going to end this book and conclusion without letting out a secret, an astounding discovery actually. Yes, I might be sticking my neck out and get misunderstood as preaching, but if so, that's not my intention, and I'm sorry if it offends you. Here goes. I don't believe God is religious. I believe God is love, unconditional love, and his son Jesus Christ is probably the most misunderstood man that ever lived. Man wielding religion killed his body. I found that he actually loves me unconditionally. And not just me, but he loves everyone too. Even when I rejected him, wasn't interested in him, was deceived into being scared about him, and he died for me. He'd already died for me. This revealed that even at my worst, I was totally forgiven, accepted and loved forever. When I believed this, peace came and the process of realizing my healing had started. I believe that he is alive and offering his unconditional love to everyone freely. To receive it, there's absolutely nothing that we have to do except believe. What are we to believe? We are what we believe. We are what we believe. I realise that there is no other name you can believe on that offers you the unconditional love needed to free you from the wounds, baggage, scars, mistakes, guilt, men's religions and burdens of our entire life, no matter who you are. When I believed in Jesus and his love for me, I became awakened to the love in me too, and the love in everyone. My life is now about growing in the knowledge and awareness of what it means to be loved unconditionally. After the religious cultic experiences I was born into and lived through, I really want to say this. To believe in Jesus and know his unconditional love for you, you are not required to become a religious, church-going, Bible-bashing, goody-two-shoes Christian who has the monopoly on being right and makes no mistakes. This Jesus I have spoken about, who loves me and us all unconditionally, is not the Jesus of man's religion that is riddled with traditions, conditions, divisions, laws and rules. We can access him freely by faith alone, now. All are included. I'm not suggesting you conform to a religion. Rather, I point you to receiving unconditional love. I finished this chapter and this book with 10 quotes that have helped me. My prayer and desire for you is that the great deception of man's religion, all of them with their laws and stipulations and conditions, would not entice you away from the unconditional love that is waiting for you right now. Here they are. Victor Hugo said, "Great happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved." Paul the Apostle said, "Love never fails." John Lennon and Paul McCartney said, "All you need is love." Virgil said, "Love conquers all things. Let us too surrender to love." John the Beloved said, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out all fear. We love because he first loved us." Janos Arne said, "In dreams and in love, there are no impossibilities." F. Scott Fitzgerald said, "I love you, and that's the beginning and end of everything." Emily Bronte said, "He is more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same." John the Beloved said, "God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them." And the last quote, again by John the Beloved, said, "This is how we know what love is, that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. Only believe."